Good evening, fight fans. Welcome to another great episode of Headkicks and Haymakers. I'm your boy Bodkins, and of course, with me, as always, is Mr. Bobby Blunts. Real quick, before we get started, we got to shout out our third colleague, Wit. Had his the baby boy was born last week, baby Israel. I believe I was trying to, maybe it was in a text message. I was trying to see where he messaged me the weight, but baby boy's all good, is home and is doing well. I believe he said well, I don't know, it was like 9 pounds. Baby's like 9 pounds or so, doing well. So shout out to our guy Wit taking care of newborn baby. Hopefully he'll be back in the next week or so as things kind of get settled down at home. As we know, if you ever been a new dad, that's very taxing and hard. And for my mom's doing well, he said as well last time I talked to him. So shout out to our third colleague, Wit, holding down the fort at the house. So
easily the best news we've heard of the week. By far.
Amen to that. William says, "What's up? What's up, William? I appreciate it. Appreciate you tuning in, Bobby. I mean, it is a slow week in the MMA world. I literally texted you earlier this week. I said, I don't even know what the fuck we're gonna talk about. He says, congratulations, number 3. We could start. I guess if you want, we could start at the tough last night. Your thoughts on tough season? What, 20? Is it 20 or 30? I feel like I don't even know.
It's the 33rd season, but this is the 20th anniversary. So
okay.
Which I guess means they were pumping out 2 a year, which kind of makes sense with, they've done some of the international ones that were like straight in Brazil and stuff. Was kind of surprised to see Dana White. I figured he would have sent someone else, but it seems like these are the things that, still get him going and stuff. And I was trying to
the Apex more lively during a tough fight than it is during than it will be this Saturday.
There's passion, like people actually care. Granted it's like 2 teammates and stuff, like, coaching, but when I went back to watch the beginning of it, not because I wanted to, obviously, but I was curious, from the perspective of a fan that has never seen this before. How would this product come across to how someone like me who has watched every season of it, if it would be any different? And I obviously can't, Men in Black my mind with everything I've seen, but they've absolutely streamlined the shit out of this thing. They practically had everyone already lined up in the Apex. Dana walked out with the coaches and literally had the line, "Welcome to the Apex." And, it kind of is what it is at this point. I did find it kind of fitting that they showed us the beginning of how it all started and almost the better times when the show was intriguing. So maybe that's their plan for the new people that haven't seen this. But
I feel like they've done that in the past though.
They absolutely have. They just do it different ways. And let's just be honest, it's not bringing in any new viewers. The people that watch this are absolutely sick. Hi, that's me. And, you really just need to turn into the last 15 minutes for the fight. Improvements, I guess I could say I do like that the way they went with the coaches. I kind of like the retired route. I personally don't need the coaches, fake bickering and stuff, acting like they're going to fight at the end of the season. And you can tell how competitive Chael and DC are. So I'm sure it will kind of make for enough entertainment. But dire week of MMA news if we're opening with tough, that's for sure.
It is. I don't know if we're going to go the full hour tonight. I mean, we hopefully get some comments and then things like that tonight. But
when I start yapping, we'll go on a roll. So.
Yeah. My first thought is they haven't changed the format in 20 years. You know what I mean? It's the same shit. You know what I mean? It really is the same shit. It's just here's the fighters. It's the, here's the house. You know what I mean? It's just like, here's some training montage. Here's a sad sap story about this fighter. And here's another sad sap story about this fighter. And now they're going to fight. You know what I mean? It's, and luckily, like you said, like I watch it. I don't watch it live. Tuesdays I'm pretty busy anyway, so I don't ever really watch it live, and I watch it the next day. And I can just fast forward to.
Congratulations on having a life.
I could just fast forward to the fighting. I did like the shit talking from DC's team already, and I think. During the weigh-in, and then that other guy was like from Chael's team was kind of like, talking shit to him during the weigh-in. I think Chael's going to be the better coach. Like, just my initial go at it, watching it. DC's never really, I mean, I know he coaches wrestling and it's high school kids and things like that, but like you can see the difference already. Chael is like a raw, or not Chael, but DC to me is like a raw guy, right? Like, not so maybe X's and O's. I think Chael's a little X's and O's a little bit more. And Chael and DC is like kind of that college. You can tell that comes from that high school football acumen almost, where it's like trying to be the cheerleader type coach. You know what I mean? He's like telling the guy, get in his face, come on. Trying to hype up his guy. Like he's like the hype man instead of more the coach. That was kind of my biggest takeaway from episode 1.
Yeah, I mean, we've kind of known that like the team that they bring in does a lot of the more work. It is like that right there says it all. So you want to be an apex fighter, because like when Dana was giving that speech, in my mind, it was like, if all goes well for you, your next 7 fights is going to be here. And I'm not talking about the tough fights. I'm talking about after they get the contract. This is probably, where they're going to be. So it was more kind of get, used to it.
It's either going to be here or you're going to be on the prelim of the Takistan card, like Kamaru's brother, right? You know what I mean?
Yeah. And like when it starts going more, you'll kind of like filter it out. But like this season, more than ever, I feel like it's been designed to, they're just kind of cycling the guys in and out because they know they can't really control who wins. So they're all giving them equally less airtime, hitting us with a signature sob story. And, that's kind of what it is. But, at the same time, the fights more or less kind of deliver, because you do see the guys are fighting for something and, they do want to advance and stuff. Now with the editing stuff, I don't know how many of these fights are like happening in the same day or same week for that matter. But, it's all kind of been pre-recorded. But it was kind of bizarre seeing Kobe not being the Kobe character. But I'm kind of looking forward to seeing the cameraman, put in extra work to make sure he doesn't reveal his true personality. But the way the one part that got me cracking up is when DC went to give the patented, hey, just because you're the last fighter being selected, look at Brandon Moreno, and Chael just starts snoring and telling him to wrap it up. That's the type of banter that like I think will like work for the show, and it'll be a lot more genuine than when you got like, Michael Chandler and Conor McGregor, and he's like, oh, you'll do what you're told. And we all know that ended up being true. But, they don't
have
cool
to manufacture the hostility.
Flyweight too. Because like both those divisions are on fire. So you got to be good if you're going to, crack into those ranks there.
Yeah, that's true. It is flyweight and welterweight. And you're just like, you hit it actually on the head about the welterweight. It's like, they almost picked I don't know if a good time to enter new blood or a bad time, because like we're getting all this new blood already in the welterweight. So it's like, man, these guys got a lot, their work cut out for them. But yeah, you don't need to manufacture the hostility. And now sometimes that is good, obviously for TV and things like that. But I think there'll be banter between them because we know they're not going to fight. So we don't even need to see that. It's good promo for their podcast, I guess. You know what I mean? Maybe they'll, maybe one day me and you will be the coaches of Tough Bobby. And, we'll have to,
Yeah. And that is kind of like the natural banter I was talking about. Like they're already on camera enough, going back and forth and disagreeing with each other. It's going to feel a lot more, genuine than, Connor coming in his Lamborghini to film a few scenes and then probably taking off for the next 2 weeks. So, at least we know they'll be there. They've had Forrest Griffin doing the intros for quite a while. If I'm not mistaken, he's done a lot of Dana's, like the parts that Dana used to do and stuff. So I don't know if maybe this was the one-time Dana appearance until we get to the semifinals and stuff. But, it'll be interesting enough as far as the Tuesday goes. But I completely understand anyone that says this is a tired format. I just have no interest, and I have tough fatigue. I look at the Apex that exact same way, so I completely get it. But I'm also sick in the head because I end up watching all of it. So
yeah, I'm the same way. Like I have tough fatigue, and that's the great thing about it. Not watching it live, like, and be able to watch it the next day, is I can fast forward through all the bullshit that I don't care. Like, I don't need to hear the sob story and how I miss my wife and my girlfriend. I left here because I left them for. You left because you want to become a fighter, like, and you left because the UFC said, "Hey, you got to come on this fucking show if you want a chance to fight in our promotion. Like, you weren't good enough for Dana White Contender Series, or just to come off this, for us to sign you to a contract. So you got to go earn the son of a bitch." Okay, well, here you go. William said, yeah, the guy last night was prime case. Here's a picture of my family. He's holding up crying. Are you going to do that every fucking time you fight? I doubt it. You know what I mean? So,
and he was already in the UFC. I mean, that's kind of another thing, is these guys get cycled in and out so quickly. Granted, I'm not saying he doesn't deserve to be on the show. He's probably the most experienced, and I would probably favor him considering he's already been here. But they're going to be bringing in a lot of kind of guest coaches and stuff. It sounds like former champions, but the intro of it and listening to all that, it felt like this was not, here's a product for fans. It's, here's a product because we're gearing up for a new TV deal and we want you to pay buku dollars. And I normally don't feel that about the UFC. I feel like it's kind of directly for the fan, but this felt a little bit more corporate than it normally would be, if that makes any sense.
Yeah. It'll be interesting. The different, and I like the fact that the coaches aren't fighting, and it'll be two different. Bringing in, like we talked about Colby, and then it'll see somebody I saw on Twitter. Shout out to Instagram, I think it was MMA Base Gotti, I think is her name. If you follow her on Instagram, she promoted this. She asked this question, and it seems like a good idea. If it was going to be Chael versus DC, why would you not bring in like a bunch of Dagestan fighters and then a bunch of US wrestlers, right? And then Chael coaches the US wrestlers, DC, and it gets to coach these Dagestani guys since he's so close. Like, that would be a good premises. I know they've kind of done that in the past with, like, what was it, like the Brazilians versus I don't, like the Usman series. I can't remember which team. It was like the Brazilians.
The Black Zillions versus it was team versus team. And that kind of did make for one of the more unpredictable series or seasons. I think, when I first heard you say that, I thought it was more, why didn't they bring in some of these Dagestani guys to coach with DC? And I think I know the answer to that. When you look at who Chael has on his team, you know, he may be a nice guy off camera, but those Dagestanis do not play with that bullshit. And I doubt Kobe would want to be looking over his shoulder an entire season. Though that might be good television, it's probably not what he signed up for.
At least we're not getting the lie of like, hey, they're getting a 6-figure contract, right? Remember that was like the first UFC tough, wasn't it? The 6 they're getting, the winner gets forced, and they were going to get like a 6-figure contract from the UFC, and then it's like, you know, here we are 20 years later, you realize that they're like, oh, we was fucking broke. Like this shit we had to hit a home run on tough.
Now I think they lead with like, you get a 6-fight deal, which, you know, I don't know if it's any better than like what they come in if they win Contender. You would hope it'd kind of be a little bit more of a bump, or I do think it does give them a little bit better of a platform to kind of, you know, maintain like sponsorships and stuff like that. You know, you're a little bit more well known, but, you know, at the same time, Contender is so popular, and there really wouldn't be a way to do this because of how the shows work. But I'm surprised they haven't attempted to merge it one season. But, you know, the UFC is so like set up with all their content, and they got to, you know, have a certain amount of fighters cut by the time they get Contender going, that they just haven't like kind of too dialed in to do anything creative. And in their mind, why fix something that isn't broken? Even though it feels kind of broken to us, to them, all the numbers and stuff probably see the same. I mean, especially now that it's, you know, streaming on ESPN Plus and stuff. I mean, the one thing they left out, or they kind of hinted at it, but I mean, they were going broke when they were doing that first season.
Yeah.
And then that fight more or less kind of saved the company and how people looked at it. So obviously it's not going to have the same stakes and stuff when, you know, the thing is kind of, the UFC is already well established and made. But, you know, it's, I don't think there was anything on it that was shocking, but I was not expecting to be surprised because, you know, after 33 seasons, what do you expect?
Yeah, you know, it's funny. Two things that brought to my attention. I'm going to tell you this kind of off here, but I'll just tell you on there. It's funny. So I have Hulu Live, like Hulu Live Sports, you know, and I actually have like Tough set to record, even though I can just go to like the ESPN Plus app and watch it. But like if I just click it to record on like my DVR of Hulu, so it's weird because like Tough it goes to like the TV show section. There's like a TV show section. There's like a movie section and a sports section of like my DVR. And for some reason, so like WWE, like I record SmackDown on Fridays, right? Like, and it'll go to the sports section. But like Tough, for some odd reason, I think the Contender Series too goes to the TV portion. So I'm like, oh, I was like, they view this as like maybe Tough, I think, especially is more the TV because they view it as a reality TV show, more sports show.
Yeah, I mean, that's probably it. It wouldn't shock me if the execs at Hulu even had an idea of their fights on it. They literally might just think it's a reality show. But you know, nothing really shocks me anymore. I mean, the same, you know, the coin flip. I'm glad it's like at least all streamlined to where like we got that in the first like 10 minutes. But then when like they went to the evaluations, it was like, okay, these evaluations are complete bullshit. Because the first thing DC says is he wants to make sure, you know, these guys put work in on the wrestling mat. What do you do with his number one pick? Pick the LAFA champion who does not grapple. So no,
I thought that was who Chael picked. Chael picked that guy.
Chael picked the UFC vet who
fought. That's right. So the other guy was the LFA winner.
Yeah, and then I know like one of the guys that DC picked on his team has some sort of affiliation with Cormier, whether or not like it's one of his coaches or something. And like I have absolutely no problem with that. Like this happens all the time on the show. It's how kind of these guys get into the door. So, you know, if you're
Yeah,
not,
Brad Katona was on there twice, right? I mean,
yeah,
you know.
and we got kind of a repeat of that, and I really am hoping it goes better for the other guy than it goes for Brad Katona, because I mean, Brad Katona is just a very unlikable
What's good,
human
Devin?
being. You know, I'm sure he's a great guy off camera, but I mean the tough season really did him no favors. So you know, I can't remember his last fight, but that
It was the one in he just lost. Didn't he
yeah,
lose in Montreal, right?
yeah, and I was smiling mainly because I was thinking back to that tough series, and you know that's probably a bad premise to be going in the show, like you know wanting someone to fail, but you know it kind of proved the point of it doesn't matter if you go through the Ultimate Fighter a second time, it's not going to make you like any more prepared for it. As far as you know, the most grueling competition ever, that's kind of more of the schedule with like the nagging injuries and stuff. So I mean that part is true, but they are literally at the PI, so they've gotten a lot better at kind of injuries falling out because they sequester them there. But I don't know. I mean, I'd be lying if I said I'm excited for it, but I got a little bit more hope than the previous seasons where the coaching just really seemed like tiring and ungenuine. So hopefully that kind of, you know, moves along and improves it a little bit. And like, especially when we're like waiting for certain things to happen. And then, you know, we see DC and Chael kind of commenting on these subjects weekly. And now we have them like on this show. It'll be kind of interesting to see how that goes. What up, Rob?
What's up, Rob? Yeah, it'll be interesting. I want to ask you real quick because we've been talking about ESPN Plus, and obviously Tough is on there. And I told you this morning because is it Rob Thomas or what's the guy's name from
Luke
Morning
Thomas.
Combat? Luke Thomas, thanks. They've cleaned out the UFC library on ESPN Plus pretty much within everything, unless it was happening within the last 12 months. I think ESPN Plus is kind of going away. Like they're getting rid of the Plus thing, and they're kind of going to go to their own app where you can just purchase the ESPN app by itself and have like their own streaming and everything like that. I don't know if that has something to do with it, or do you think it has something to do with the negotiations here with ESPN? As you know, we're halfway done with this year. This contract ends at the end of the year.
I think it could be a part of it. I definitely expect ESPN or ESPN Plus, whatever we want to call it, to retain a part of the pie. Whether or not it would be the majority of the pie is what I'm kind of up in the air on. You know, if you would have asked me a few weeks ago, I would have said, hey, it looks like, you know, Netflix might be doing everything and might be taking on the entire catalog. But, you know, those negotiations with Turkey went a little haywire. So that kind of threw in a new kink. And though nothing has like really been publicly said, I think the UFC is trying to kind of keep that door open with still going to like ESPN and stuff. So it wouldn't shock me at all if, you know, my biggest fear and prediction when we were talking about this like a year ago is it pretty much is going to become like the NFL, where you're going to need like 3 or 4 different apps if you want to watch everything 365 days a year. And, you know, I don't know if maybe some of the catalog might be going like to Fight Pass or like generally what they're going to be doing with Fight Pass. It seems like they really use Fight Pass more for kind of the smaller feeder leagues that have, you know, deals with them and stuff. I wouldn't expect any of that to be going away. But I'd be kind of surprised if ESPN Plus retained 0 UFC.
To me, like I think ESPN, it's good for ESPN and good for the UFC. Like I'm like, what the hell are they going to show on ESPN then? You know what I mean? Like the baseball is
the PFL.
Yeah, yeah. We'll have to ask Don about that. Yeah, because like baseball, MLB's leaving ESPN. This is their last year Sunday Night Baseball. so like if the UFC leaves ESPN, like that's two major sports that you no longer will have on your airwaves, and so it'll be interesting. The ESPN was good for the UFC, so it'll be interesting like where they go to. I've always kind of said this. I think to me, I think if I've always liked this idea, it's kind of like if UFC Fight Pass, if they just had one app for UFC and you could go there and watch all your stuff. And like the WWE used to have it kind of with the network, and then they sold the network to to NBC. But like if they had something like that where it was just like the UFC fight, and you went there and you got all your stuff through them, like I would pay, and there was no pay-per-view. I would pay maybe $15 a month to have all the UFC a month.
And like that's the one thing I really want to maintain is I find it a very low. Like I think there's a decent chance the only thing ESPN might retain is the pay-per-view aspect of it, because with the money that they want, they're not going to get that without the pay-per-view. I mean, and I understand it for like the user-friendly part of it, like completely. But I mean, like, for example, like when I go on to NFL Plus, if I want to like rewatch a game or something, the other games that they have like contracted out to the networks, like unless I normally just watch it for the all 22, so I don't really have this issue. But if I actually want to rewatch the game that happened on Peacock, what do you think it's going to do? It's going to make me log into the Peacock, and vice versa with everything else they have. And the one thing I think about that is maybe YouTube should be a player in this, because I mean, ever since they've taken over the NFL, I mean, my viewer experience has been flawless, especially if you compare it to Sunday Ticket and stuff like that. Like that was always crashing and you could never like maintain absolutely anything. So I don't think UFC got alienated enough by not being able to stream a few pay-per-views and stuff, because like they're looking for that guaranteed for these events. And so I would just be shocked if that part went away. And then last thing on ESPN, like good for Manfield for pulling baseball. Like I wouldn't want to have my product on ESPN either. They do not talk about sports. They talk like, I don't know who it was, if it was Stephen A. Smith or someone else. Like he's literally like, oh, well, I don't think Tyrese Halliburton is a star. Really? That's what we're fucking talking about on a Wednesday? Like, I mean, maybe I just don't find that interesting and I'm part of the problem. But like what I always remembered ESPN for was like you could turn on Sports Center and actually get a highlight of everything that happened in that day. Not a bunch of nonsensical bullshit that has absolutely nothing to do with the sport.
What was it this morning? Who's the biggest threat to the Eagles this season in the NFC East? I'm like, it's fucking May. Like, why are we talking who the biggest threat is to a team? You know what I mean? So I'm 100% agreement with you. I mean, we're old school. We're roughly the same age. So I think we're the same age. You know what I mean? So like we grew up in that time period of where you turn on Sports Center, it's just straight highlights in a good old Sports Center, and Stuart Scott and Rich Eisen and Dan Patrick in the group, Kid Payne, and those boys. So, but yeah, I'm with you. I'm kind of with you. I think that the UFC will probably stick around on ESPN. I hope not. My biggest hope is that they go to Netflix and there's no paywall, or Amazon and there's no paywall, or HBO or wherever the fuck and there's no paywall.
If that happens, you got to ask yourself how much Netflix is going to be a month too.
I'll pay it, Bobby. I fucking pay it. I probably won't even know that I'm paying it, but I'm paying it. You know what I mean? So yeah, like that's my biggest hope, is that then there's no fucking paywall. But we'll see what happens. it's interesting that they've scraped all that clean so far. Like, and we're when do you think let me ask you this. What happens first? We get an announcement of the TV rights deal or an announcement of what happens with John Jones's belt?
They might literally go back to back. It wouldn't shock me if the deal kind of gets like semi-leaked or something like that, and then we get a fight announcement or something. But I can't imagine that the UFC is counting on any fight or holding any fight back waiting for this deal, because especially in pertaining to Jones Aspinall, like that the end of the year is, no matter what, gonna the cross just hit it there. That's gonna, in other words, it's never happening. I just don't see them being the way they have it all, like with not building any stars, and they rely on the biggest star is the UFC. I think, the second that they get that deal, they're going to lock it in. And I do not really think any of these people, whether it's Netflix, Amazon, YouTube, I don't think any of them know any of these guys in the first place to like quantify like what a star is. So, the UFC will probably tell them who the stars and the players are, and, they'll say, hey, take my bag of cash.
Yeah, I think you're kind of right. Unless they have a fight fan. I mean, shit. I mean, people at TKO don't even know who fucking some of the stars are, right? They got fucking Bonehead that still says, fighting the Apex, the Stadium, it's all the fucking same. So you can't tell the difference. So I mean, their own people don't even fucking know.
The world famous Apex, making it sound like a hamburger at fucking Wendy's.
The mighty Apex, you know what I mean? The glorious mighty Apex. Yeah, so I'm kind of, it'll be interesting where they go from there. I think the TV deal probably gets leaked sooner. It's weird because the only person we've heard from is Netflix, right? Or that we've heard rumors of is Netflix. I haven't heard anything like, oh, they met with Amazon, or oh, they met with Apple Plus, or they met with XYZ. The only person we've heard from is that they met with Netflix, and then but it seemed like that boxing deal was more of, then Turkey kind of fucked all that up, so that they're trying to repair that relationship, I guess. So, so Bo here says, plus the side bets of how many buffering wheels during the lives on Netflix. I haven't had any problems with Raw on Netflix, so there's that.
They ironed out all the kinks with the worthless Jake Paul fight, and it's a shame that the Amanda Serrano-Katie Taylor fight also kind of paid the price. I mean, I was obviously able to go back and rewatch it and didn't have any of the buffering issues, but that was kind of their test event. But they definitely ironed all that shit out for football. I mean, I personally have not had any issues since the Paul fight. But, I thought the same thing when the NFL went to YouTube. I was like, there's no way that they're going to be able to deal with this streaming property with this many people. And not only can I watch one game, but I can watch 4 at the same time. So, I mean, they've definitely come a long way. But at the same time, it is kind of fun to poke fun at Netflix, because that first event was awful. I mean, granted, it brought in a lot of extra eyes that would never really watch fighting, so like they probably weren't like ready to deal with like that type of a crash. But I mean, I literally had to watch that fight going to an illegal website because Netflix just kept doing the buffering.
Same. I was like, how the hell is my streaming to illegal streaming working better than Netflix on that?
And fight? Not only that, the illegal streaming kept cutting out because they were doing the same thing.
Yeah. And speaking of that, like, I think if they go to multiple, you mentioned if they go to multiple things like the NFL, right, where you have 5 different fucking apps, and I think you're gonna get more illegal streaming. Like Dana's trying, I felt like that was a thing in 2020. It's like, oh, we got him, and now you never hear him fucking say anything about illegal streaming. They've just kind of given up. Like, you close one website down today, tomorrow the same fucks are opening up a new one. You know what I mean? So
I agree, but at the same time, I think that right there is a perfect example of how checked out Dana White is. Because like old school Dana White, oh, he'd be threatening those like streamers and stuff. He doesn't give a shit now. Like, I mean, plain and simple.
Yeah. Before we look at this weekend's card, I got to ask you, Pirate Bay making a comeback. LimeWire's going to make a comeback too, Bo.
Streaming on Napster.
Yeah. Did you have you seen the recent Nate Diaz comments?
Oh God, no. What?
No.
Does it have to do with that reality show or what?
No. So I don't know what podcast he was on or something. So there's a couple things that are alarming. First, he said, I was supposed to beat Conor McGregor in that movie, but he said, I ain't losing to no. They told me he's like, I seen the original Roadhouse. He said, I thought you want me to be that guy. I said, who the guy am I supposed to be fighting? And they say, Jake Gyllenhaal. He said, I ain't losing to no Brokeback Mountain motherfucker. So
that's fairly believable to me.
I was like, and then he said his plan is to come. So this is the part where Nate doesn't make any sense, right? He said his plan was to come back to UFC, but then he's like, there ain't no killers out there right now. And they're like, what about, and he said, I ain't fighting at 155. I don't want to fight at 155. I only want to fight at 170. He said, Conor's always going to be there. Like, we got to finish that. And then he said that, he'd also like, but this is the part that don't make sense, right? He's like, I don't want to fight at 155, but then he's like, I want to fight Ilya Taporia and I want to fight Max Holloway for the BMF belt. Like, well, those two guys are fighting at 155, Nate. So you're not watching the sport, or are you just throwing out fucking names?
Yeah, I mean, it's bittersweet to me because, like, I love Nate, and it really just comes down to he's always gonna, and he's kind of earned the right to like question the new school class of fighter and stuff like that. With the kids not coming into the game with any respect. I mean, keep in mind, he was heavily disrespected on The Ultimate Fighter the entire time. And there was one guy that was not playing it up for the cameras, and that was definitely Nate. Yeah. Is that still him? Like, to this day, I'm not really sure. But
I could, I'm trying to imagine Nate Diaz in the roles of I couldn't really even imagine. Like, Conor played a pretty good part, but I couldn't imagine just Nate Diaz like with his hat back where he's fucking smoking. Like, he doesn't even look intimidating. You know what I mean? And being like,
yeah,
and then be like, trying to be this badass. Like, that's just not him. Like, Conor kind of plays that role. Man.
I mean, for me, it's his playbook of how he made his career. I mean, he called his shot and called out Conor McGregor when people actually, thought like Conor was some unstoppable force. And he did the whole, Conor McGregor, you taking everything I worked for, motherfucker. I'm going to fight your fucking ass. That's the real money fight. This is more the same of that, just kind of years later. And, it's straight out of the Nate playbook. So, I saw some of those comments come through now that you mentioned it. And, Dalton, you're getting slapped. Yeah, I know that. I mean, that would be
slapping everybody
with the amount
Roadhouse.
of AI out, I can't imagine that someone already hasn't been able to do that. Like,
I need somebody to put Nate Diaz in the film and just film all of Conor's scenes. Like, I probably would die laughing just thinking about it.
Yeah. And, I don't think he will ever fight in the UFC again. I'm not saying I'm opposed to him coming back, But just when you see like how fast the sport moves and stuff, like it was a real shame that he kind of got fucked over in the Famio deal and stuff, because that was the one thing that was able to throw my support behind the Diaz Masvidal, is at least I know these guys are getting paid. So, he took that reality show with John Jones. Obviously, he was there a day. I would be kind of surprised if he was contracted to do any more, because I just don't see him really putting up with that stuff. But I don't know. To me, it's more telling that it was him and John Jones on that thing. Like, we're talking about a guy that is not been in the UFC for a number of years, and a guy that we're waiting for a fight to drop that's doing this. I mean, I think you can understand my skepticism here.
Yeah, it's just funny. Like to me, like Nate to me is always going to be a certified gangster. Like him and Nick are goated in my mind. Like not like goats, but just like dudes that are like, you know what I mean? Like just always, I'm always going to ride with like those are guys that kind of help grow this sport in popularity. Nick and Nate. And I'd love to see Nate fight one more time. His last fight, what was his? Oh, his last fight, he was Tony Ferguson, right? I guess, on his way out.
Only because of the MMA gods. They tried to take him out the back door and old Yeller him with Chimaev.
Yeah.
So, sometimes you get real lucky and stuff. But, I'd rather him just be left on the send-off that he got, because I don't see it being any more positive than what we could have got in that Tony Ferguson fight.
Yeah, I mean, what was it? Before that was Leon Edwards, and I mean, Leon pieced him up for the better part. I think it was a 5-rounder, and then
he still had that moment where he wobbled Leon, and to this day, people do not respect Leon because of that. So, you can't hate him for trying, for sure. And when you see kind of all these other things getting brought back, I would only say if they do it, do right by the matchmaking. There's no reason to, match him up with some.
They'd probably match him up with Michael Morales. Like that's who, you know what I mean? Or Carlos Prates right off the bat. Like, you want to return. You want to return? Here's these two guys. You guys.
I mean, give him Chandler. I'd be fine with that. Like that I would. Guys, it's gonna turn into another podcast of people thinking I'm shitting on Chandler. But that is like more the type of matchmaking I'm talking about than giving him to some guy coming off the Dana White Contender Series, getting his first UFC debut patch that they're going to sell for a fucking trading card. Like, have they not figured out ways to monetize the sport and fuck these guys enough? It's, getting old after a while.
Yeah, I mean, first of all, speaking of that, I'm glad you brought that up, the patch thing. So, like, back in the day, they could, all the sponsors on the shorts, and then they went, solo just to the uniform. And now it's like, oh, just here's a patch, and then the next patch would be like, oh, well, you get a patch for your 50th your 10th fight, or your first 5 win or whatever, your winning streak, right? That'll be a patch. And then it's like, oh, so I thought we weren't gonna be a fucking NASCAR and have all these sponsors, but you're just gonna do all these patches so you guys can make money, but not the fucking fighters.
Yeah, and like I saw Rashad Evans win the title the other day in the off week, and they not only let him completely be decked out in sponsors when he was doing his post-fight interview, he had another product in his hand when he was getting interviewed by Joe Rogan. Like, they would never let that shit fly nowadays.
Nah, if you ain't a monster can, you ain't holding it, homie. You know what I mean?
Yeah. Exactly. Like, here's the monster can, like, here's the approved sponsor.
Yeah.
And it is kind of the cool thing, like the PFL's letting guys get 2 sponsors on the shorts and stuff. But I kind of feel like it's a tired point. But when I see people doing a petition to strip John Jones instead of a petition for either fighter pay or for them to have sponsors. Like, that's just laughable to me.
Well, that's because we don't care anymore. They don't care. They don't care. They only care, that the John Jones has had this. The crazy thing about it is, I get it as far as everybody wants John Jones to be stripped, but if you really think about it, John Jones fought in November. Even if he was or was not going to fight, like let's just say we think he's going to fight, he probably really wouldn't fight again until now or November. Like he's only going to fight one time a year, probably. You know what I mean? That's just kind of been his MO. Like he's not the super active fighter. So by all technicality, he's still kind of on schedule. We're just in a hurry because Aspinall's had this belt because of the injury, and then they didn't do him and Tom right away. Obviously, they did the Stipe fight instead. But like, really, I mean, it's kind of still on point on the timeline. November was just 7 months ago, so like typically most fighters are taking that time, quite a bit of time off. I mean, we just saw Bilal fight, and he hadn't fought in over almost a year. You know what I mean? In that 7-8 months, so like it's kind of relatively, as far as like non-super active champions are, where he's at.
Yeah, and I do think the November date was kind of always circled as the self-eject thing. But, and I got to give Luke Thomas credit for this because he was screaming it from the rooftops. But, and I was a proponent of it at the time because I wanted to see, Stipe get one more kind of last payday. And that was just stupid and short-sighted by me, because in allowing that fight to happen, we have created this situation. And yeah, you can kind of go on the thing of, well, John only fights once a year, so Tom knew what he was getting into. But, it doesn't mean that the situation doesn't completely suck. So hopefully, it gets resolved. But, now I got to find a way to get some Tom Aspinall gear shipped to me, because none of it goes in the United States.
Yeah. I mean, I don't know why everybody was so mad about that. He literally come out and was like, I'm not announcing the fight. This isn't fight news. This isn't fight news. UFC announces my fights, guys. You know what I mean? And then it's just like, everybody was mad that, well, what the fuck do you think? And then, of course, you're getting all these fake fucking fight announcements. Surreal Gone, Jalton Almeida, all this sort of, bullshit that's not out there. I said last week, Bob, we weren't going to talk about John Jones versus Tom Aspinall until something's definite. Here we are. Let's get into this week's card. We got a number one. I feel like almost maybe number one contender fight here at the women's flyweight in Erin Blanchfield versus Macy Barber. Macy Barber's the dog in this fight at plus 200. Erin Blanchfield at minus 250. Erin's 13-2. Macy 14-2, has been on quite the run here as of late. Has Macy Barber? I believe she is. She's on a nice winning streak here. 6-7 in a row for Macy Barber. Erin Blanchfield has won 5 out of her last 6. So the lone loss to being to Meniere Ferro, but Macy was like, I think she, kind of saying like she's got holes in her game. Meniere showed us that, and then she thought that Rose beat Blanchfield back in November, but perfect Apex card here on Saturday night.
Yeah, I don't know. And I mean, no disrespect to anyone on the card, but it's just rough. Like a year ago on Saturday, we were getting Islam versus Poirier. And now it's, here's your Apex. And okay, I completely get it. She exposed the holes. Pause. And, looking at the fight, it's like, yeah, okay, this is a great main event. I guess you can call it that. I am kind of asking, why do we need 5 rounds of this? I would be a little bit more excited if it was a 3-round fight. But at the same time, you know, like you said, it's for a number one contender spot. So they're building it at the top. All right, fine. I'm not mad at it. But it just feels like more than ever, the UFC is at this, well, you don't like this one? We'll see you next week type of stuff. And so now that I got that shit out of the way, I can, you know, break down the fight. Macy Barber is a dog. Like, she will take damage. She is not afraid of seeing her own blood. And, you know, she'll kind of keep pushing forward and figure out ways to, you know, get out and win the fight. Now, she has had an issue in the past with wrestling, but you kind of figure she's been working on that. And Blanchfield really showed in kind of her previous fights that she does very little to kind of set up the takedown. She'll just kind of aimlessly shoot and try to get her down. So I think if Macy wasn't coming off of pulling out of a few fights with some health concerns, the line on this would be a lot more closer. But I know a lot of people kind of rate Blanchfield as like that gold star next to her name. Like, she absolutely might be a champion one day. I had that feeling to a point, but then in seeing her striking, I am not really sure how she, you know, is going to deal with the top and everything like that. So, what do we got here?
Cross says I need my insights. I'm second in the Tapology League.
Oh, well, I should probably just defer to you and say who you're picking then. Much more,
you know, man. Silva's much more interesting contender.
Yeah, Brandon took the words out of my mouth, literally.
Yeah.
And again, pause. Wow, I'm saying a lot of wild things today. Yeah, I mean, I would more say the winner of this fight should fight Silva. Like, that would kind of be my more cup of tea. But at the same time, I would really have no issue with them wanting to give it to Barber if she won. It would not shock me at all if Blanchfield won, if that's what the UFC wanted to do. But you know me, I want them to match up Valentina with Silva right now and do the Wei Lee fight later. I know that's unpopular.
I'm the opposite. I'm gonna fix the UFC's problem. You do Valentina versus Wei Lee, and then you do Silva. The winner of this fight gets Silva for the number one contender.
Yeah, I mean, I'd have no issues with it. You know,
I don't know. I know people don't like. It seems like I'm one of the few, but I'm. If you can make a big fight, and you got the pound for pound best women in the world in Wei Lee and Valentina, you make it. Wei Lee's cleaned out her damn division. I mean, who you want her to fucking fight? I mean,
not to bring this up again, but as long as they strip her, I have no problem with it. If they do not strip her, I will be the most intolerable person on the fucking internet, because there was absolutely no reason for them to remove it from Islam. You can't tell me that
I agree with you. I agree. I actually said that they should still do the Islam and the Ilya fight. That's what I said.
Yeah, I wish, and I know we're getting way off topic here, but you can't tell me that if Ilya fought for the interim title, that it would do any less numbers wise than if he fought for the undisputed title. Like, you know, the belt has no lineage. It's just something that they put at the top for title fights, and the guys get better pay. But, you know, credit to Ilya. He said he wasn't going to fight for an interim, but all you did was the most unceremonial thing in stripping the pound for pound number one fighter. So what's Cross saying now?
He says, how about we make Val versus Silva and the winner versus Aaron versus Macy can be the best. Fuck that. Fuck being the backup.
I'm with Cross on this.
Brandon says Verde and China's interesting, but Chef's the fight. You got to make the pound for pound. If one champ is willing to move up, and you got the two best women on the planet Earth that can fight, are willing to fight each other. You do that. That's that's the arguably the biggest outside of Amanda Nunes versus Kayla Harrison is that's the biggest fight, women's fight you could make in MMA.
So here's a question. Would it still be the co-main event?
No. I don't think so. I don't think it needs to be depends on who the main event is.
Yeah. I mean, if they go in China, I get it. Valentina does have the popularity and stuff there as well from her kickboxing days. But, you know, I would say keep the lineage going, have them do one more, and it will make that fight even bigger. But I get that it's big enough, so you don't need to do it. But
you're asking too much to happen if you ask each one of them more to fight one more time, and then you're just putting it off. You got to strike while the iron's hot here. How many times have we seen injuries happen, or they slip on the old banana? They lose, like, you know what I mean? Especially Valentina, she's already lost, her belt once. You know what I mean? Wei Li, I mean, the only person she loses to is Rose for some odd reason.
Like for me personally, the style matchup of Silva Valentina is so much more interesting than Wei Li. But like I get it from like the pound for pound perspective and all that.
From a promotion standpoint, that's what you got to do. Well,
yeah.
I speak from the promoter here.
Well, yeah, I mean, getting back to the two women that are fighting this weekend, I mean, do you want to break anything down, or you want me to make my pick first?
Go ahead. Go. Well, I'll you go ahead and make your pick, and then I'll go.
You know, I could see it really going both ways. I could see Macy not being able to deal with the takedowns and it being a long fight. But, you know, at the same time, she has definitely been through a lot and she's not afraid to get hit. And, you know, I'm not saying Blanchfield is, but in those dog type settings, I got a little bit more faith in Macy on this one. So knowing that it's 5 rounds and everything too, and how close that fight was with Rose, I did think Rose won that fight for the record. You know, give me Barber by decision here.
Yeah, man, I'm just looking at, Macy's been on the run. Like she lost those 2 back to back. Like I'm just kind of, she lost to Roxanne and then Alexa Grasso, and then
Roxanne has striking that I have not seen from Blanchfield.
Yeah,
as well.
Then since then she's beat Miranda Maverick, Montana De La Rosa, Jessica I, Andrea Lee, Amanda Hebus, and Caitlin Serminiera.
Probably the underdog in all those fights as well.
Yeah, I think you're probably. I'm probably going to agree with you on this. I think, it's crazy. Like before the Menyar fight, I thought Aaron Blanchfield was going to be a champion. I really did. And I do think like that fight showed something. You know what I mean? Maybe it did show some holes in her.
Crazy.
I'm with you, Bobby. I'm gonna ride on the Macy Barber train here. Give me the dog and Macy Barber. I think she can get it done. Real quick before also on this card, we got what do you make of Gamrot? Like, also, I'm looking at Gamrot on this. He's only minus 160 favorite against the unranked opponent.
I mean, the guy was talking about not being able to get a fight, supposedly, and he's got someone to fight him. You never know what Gamrot you're going to get, Like, if he's on, then this guy probably doesn't stand a chance. But then you look at the odds, and I personally don't think they're that far off, though I would probably favor Gamrot. I could really see this one going either way. I kind of wonder how much when he did that interview, his face was looking like he took quite a bit of damage. So hopefully he's no longer hard sparring. But that's kind of another like unceremonious Apex placing. Like, don't get me wrong, I'm grateful it's on the card. Probably one of the main reasons I'm going to be tuning in to watch it. But those kind of guys should not be fighting at the Apex, and it's pretty clear. Like the UFC is kind of leveraging Gamrot's name to be like, well, if this dude gets a win, we can, give them all Gamrot's love. And so the UFC is playing with house money for it, but it should definitely at least be an entertaining scrap. So, but making the tap picks this weekend is going to be rough. I will tell you that.
Yeah, I'm with you, Michael. I missed one weekend. I was right there at the end, the last time, but I missed a weekend. I just forgot to get my picks in, so I got to make my picks this weekend. I was just looking the rest of the card, Bobby. I mean, it's shit. It's your typical Apex shit.
Well, they got one main event on there. I'm gonna butcher the women's names if I say them, but it is another high-ranked fight, like 3 versus 5 or something.
Caitlin Vieira and Macy Chesson.
Yeah, so that will be meaningful. Whether or not it will be entertaining will kind of remain to be seen. And I don't know. I mean, you kind of said it best with Tough. Like the energy of 24 people being in there, opposed to the people that are paying literally $1,700 to watch this live. I mean, you guys are the true sickos. Congratulations.
Yeah, Cross says Macy versus Caitlin. Yeah, so Macy Chesson, and it'll be interesting. It's shit. I mean, it's just I get they didn't want to take 2 weekends off, but man, that's just,
like Cross made a point in the Discord earlier in the week saying the UFC overperformed in the month of May. So I'm going to cut him some slack on this. My only question to that would be, when did it really become the standard to look at the UFC like that? Like before the pandemic, I could never imagine being like, well, at least the first couple weeks were good. So, I can,
but they do that shit on purpose to give us good cards. Even the last card with Morales was pretty good.
And that was to his point. He was saying that last Apex card was great. And what happens every time we disparage an Apex card? It ends up being fairly entertaining and watchable. But it's not really just the fights. Like a lot of it is just that environment makes it so forgettable. It's why I call all this shit Apex brain. Like, good luck having me remember it on Wednesday to recap it.
Well, don't worry about it. We probably won't recap because next week we'll preview UFC 316. Is it 316? Okay, yeah. Ah, shit.
And if that was their plan, bravo. Because all of a sudden, I'm starting to get pretty thirsty for that shit when you knew I was not too happy about it when they announced it.
Yeah, it is UFC. Stone Cold Steve Austin, we'll call it. Yeah, so, cue the music. And we'll oh hell yeah, William says so. But that's it for the show, Bobby. We made it 1 hour and 4 minutes of we spent 30 minutes talking Tough. So by God, thanks for everybody tuning in. Bobby, you got any last and final thoughts before we get out of here?
No, I think I've maxed it today. Yeah, thank you everyone for popping in, especially for this week, because woof. But we only got one more week to go, and remember we got Tough on Tuesday, so I'll start forcing Botkins to recap that too.
Maybe we'll have time to look at episode 2 of Tough next week. But we'll also be previewing UFC 316, headlined by the bantamweight champion Merab versus O'Malley. 2, and co-main is the women's bantamweight Kayla Harrison versus Juliana Pena. I can't wait for the press conference. It's going to be interesting too. So, other than that, folks,
and Pat, the premiere of they put Patchy on that card too. So
Patchy
it is heavily approved since when they announced it.
Yeah. Patchy Nicks is Mario Batista. Can Mario Batista continue his Randy Orton 09 heel run? We'll find out. We'll break it down.
He will become the most hated man on Twitter if he wins that fight. By far. Or probably already is.
I kind of am going to root for that to happen, actually.
Some people just like to watch the world burn.
I love when somebody can just go on an epic fucking heel run. Brandon says he's going to be at 316. Let's go. I hope it's better than last year's jersey card. I thought last year's jersey card that was headlined by Islam versus Poirier. I don't remember who else was on the card, but that's who the headline was, I believe.
I think that's kind of to Brandon's point. The main event was great, but the rest of it was pretty forgettable.
Yeah, I don't remember. Now I almost want to look it up real quick. I won't let me go back that far on that.
Probably because they've scrubbed the thing from ESPN.
I gotta Google it. And I don't feel like typing it in now. We'll have to look it up. He said the card sucked besides the main event. Oh, maybe so. Now I gotta look it up. Islam versus Poirier. What the hell? This says Islam versus Muslim difference. Oh, God.
That's why you gotta go on the website.
Poirier versus Islam.
It's so sad I can't remember like one fight. Like I'm doing my hardest to rack my brain and come up with one, and nowhere close.
It was UFC 302. It was Sean Strickland versus Pablo Costa was the co-main.
Okay, yeah, super forgettable. That's why.
Yeah, Kevin Holland versus Michael Ozilchek at middleweight. Nico Price, Alex Randy Brown. Yeah, the card was shit.
I'll put that good energy in the air, Brandon. All next week, I'll be positive in the Discord. I won't say one negative thing about UFC Austin 316.
Yeah. Cross wants to why doesn't? Yeah, that's a good question. Just the last 2 years, it is dirty Jersey. Yeah, dirty Jersey.
Yeah, never send your luggage to Newark. You won't get it for a fucking week.
Yeah. Isn't there some problems flying into New York or Newark? All the fucking people quit or fired, or I think there's some issues there.
Yeah, I don't know. Fortunately, he's already on the ground, so he won't have to deal with anything. It's not my favorite airport.
Brandon says Newark's a shithole. Yeah. I think Jersey in general is pretty much. I've been to Jersey and Trenton and a couple other places. Kind of a poop hole of the world. The United States. It's the armpit of the United States for sure. All right, well, that's the show, folks. Be a friend, tell a friend, like, subscribe, share, hit that sub button. We'll be back 8 o'clock Central, 9 Eastern. We'll preview UFC Austin 316 next week, and maybe we'll have Whit back. Other than that, be a friend, tell a friend, like, subscribe, share. For my guy Bobby Blunts, I'm Bodkins. We'll catch you next week, folks.
Enjoy that pecs, you sickos.
Thanks so much for joining us, and until next time, let's talk sport, friends. Thanks for watching.
So funny. That was like the fastest hour ever. It went